Hello and welcome back to All Elite Spotlight. I'm TNT and we're here to go over part 3 in my series going over the history of the AEW TBS Championship. So previously in parts 1 and 2, which I hope you've checked out already, and if not, please do go and check those out. What we did was we went over in part 1 the inaugural champion, Jade Cargill. So we started off with a dominant champion, a dominant streak, undefeated streak for a total of 508 days, 24 successful title defenses. Before we switched over to Kris Statlander. So where we had dominance ruling that title, we now had a fighting champion. Because Statlander, she went ahead and had open challenges. She was wrestling and defending the title constantly. Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, pay-per-views. She was going nonstop. And so she did not have as many title defenses as Jade Cargill, but still it was a different level and a different era in the TBS title because she was a fighting champion and the quality of the matches themselves were increased by a long shot, to say the least. From Kris Statlander, we went into an era of darkness, and that was created by Julia Hart with the House of Black, where the title had been defended constantly with Statlander. Here, the focus was more on Julia's presence, more the theatrics, the house rules, stipulations that she would have involved with that. And as of that point, her title reign would be the least defended and also the shortest. But more on that later, because now we're going to go ahead and transition into part 3. And here we see a new era coming in, and that is ushered in by Willow Nightingale, because she is the one that will dethrone Julia Hart, queen of the House of Black, and we have the new era of Willow Nightingale. And this was her first reign, of course, with the TBS title, and it was a welcome change, I would say, because Willow is another homegrown talent, much like Julia, but on the entire other spectrum, right? So we have the darkness of Julia Hart in the House of Black, and we have the absolute positive energy, happy-go-lucky, always smiling Willow Nightingale. So that was what we had. That's how the reign started. So this happened on April 21st in 2024 at Dynasty. The match itself was not the greatest match in TBS Championship history. It was a relatively short match, to be honest, but the crowd reaction, they were definitely behind Willow in that one, and it was definitely celebrated at that moment. And I guess some key points that we would focus on there is, like what I said, it was just a major reaction for the babyface, right? For that positive energy. We'd known Willow Nightingale her whole history in AEW, and it was good to see her finally get her hands on some singles gold. So it was well-deserved, well-earned, and the fans, all of us, we loved it. It was a huge moment at the time, and that's basically what brought an end to the House of Rules era for Julia Hart in that TBS title. Now, when we're talking about a length of her reign, Willow Nightingale's reign, we clock in at only 35 days. So the shortest reign to date for the TBS title. And she only had one successful title defense, and that was on Rampage against Sky Blue. Now, when Willow Nightingale defeated Julia Hart at Dynasty, her celebration was short-lived because out came her next major threat, and that was Mercedes Moné coming into the AEW landscape and setting it upside down, right? And so Willow didn't have to have all the fanfare and spotlight focused on her from the moment she won it, because Mercedes' entrance hit, she hits the ring, and she's out there to stake her claim and let Willow know that she's coming for her. So just over a month later, because as I said, her reign lasted 35 days, and that was because the new era was going to begin, a more global era, and that was brought about by Mercedes Moné. Here we have Mercedes in her first ever AEW in-ring match, and she's going for Willow's TBS title. Now, I recently rewatched this match, and I've got to say it was excellent start to finish. It was brutal. I mean, these two are going at it like they legitimately hated each other. They both had something to prove, and it really came across. The crowd ate it up, and it was just a huge moment in the history of that title and the history of the women's division in AEW, and just in women's wrestling, complete full stop. So yeah, completely hard-hitting match, counters galore. They really went at it in that one. When Mercedes was declared the victor at the hands of her finisher, the Moneymaker, there was nothing else to say other than congratulations to Willow for being champion, but now the title is going to be skyrocketed to yet another level, and it just cemented that this was one of the biggest signings in AEW history, men or women. Mercedes Moné was here, and she was here to take AEW and the TBS title specifically to newer heights that it had not seen under the previous champions. There was an instant spotlight on her title. Now, Mercedes' reign, it lasted 584 days, so surpassing Jade Cargill's 508. She had 24 successful title defenses, which tied Jade Cargill's leading successful title defenses. Whereas Jade Cargill had her defenses against maybe less notable wrestlers, not as high level or high of a tier, and the quality of matches were perhaps substandard, most people would say. For Mercedes, it was exactly the opposite. She was defending it not just in the US, not just in AEW. She took the title, the TBS title, all over the world. It traveled to Mexico, Canada, Japan, England. I mean, name it. It was all over Europe as well. So it was a tour. It was, in all honesty, a global era, like I mentioned before. She faced and defeated the likes of Stephanie Vaquer, current world champion over in the Fed. She defeated Britt Baker. On that list, also Kris Statlander, Mina Shirakawa, Rio. I mean, there were a lot of top names on there. And those are just most of the domestic ones. You can see here for yourself that no one went out of her way as much as Mercedes did to defend and bring glamour and bring notoriety to that TBS title. She faced people from around the world, major pay-per-view matches, cross-promotional opponents. There was an amazing amount of global visibility for that TBS title. While Jade Cargill built the championship and deserves all the credit in the world for that, it was Mercedes that actually went ahead and it expanded it beyond anything any of the previous champions had so far done. But as the saying goes, right? Every beginning must have an end. And for Mercedes, that end came at the final day of the year, December 31st, 2025, at AEW Dynamite New Year's Smash. Now, this was another great match, and I had to rewatch it recently as well just because I just wanted to see exactly the intensity and the actual feeling behind that match, behind that loss for Mercedes, and behind the victory of Willow Nightingale, because we went full circle. So 584 days from when Mercedes Moné ended Willow Nightingale's first TBS title reign, it was now Willow Nightingale coming full circle and getting her vengeance, her revenge, and able to reclaim the TBS title, becoming so far the only two-time TBS champion. I'd implore you all to go ahead and check it out. Not just these matches with Mercedes and Willow, both of them, but go through, watch Jade's inaugural match. Don't have to watch all of her reign, but definitely check out the ones against Kris Statlander. I would just recommend going ahead and giving yourself a little treat and watching some of those TBS title matches, because they were really, really great, particularly in Statlander's run and Mercedes' run, and those two matches between Mercedes and Willow Nightingale to bookend Mercedes' title reign. So I've got to say it was a great redemption story for Willow Nightingale. At the time, she was already the inaugural AEW Women's Tag Team Champions, along with Harley Cameron. So she ended the year in a bang, started off 2026 with a rocket strapped to her, basically. And, she's still, as of this taping, the current TBS champion. Actually, as of the time of this taping, again, disclosure, she is facing Persephone at AEW Dynamite coming up. And Persephone is the newly crowned CMLL Women's World Champion. So another test for Willow Nightingale's second TBS title reign. And this will be her second title defense. So again, Willow Nightingale is champion, but has so far only had one successful title defense in her reign, currently totaling at 68 days and counting. And so just to wrap up what we're looking at, we had Jade starting off the title, a great champion, great presence, way to really cement what the title meant in AEW. Started off with a great run, 508 days undefeated as a champion. And then from there, we go from that dominant streak to having Kris Statlander, fighting champion, open challenges, never backing down. From there, we get the presence and the theatrics of Julia Hart and the House Rules. Then we get the first title reign of Willow Nightingale. We get the joy, the happiness, the always keep smiling moniker for Willow Nightingale. Yes, it was a short run, only one successful title defense, lasting only 35 days, which would then usher in Mercedes Moné and her global impact era, where she lasted and crushed Jade Cargill's lengthy reign and ended up holding it for 584 days and tying the successful title defenses at 24. Kris Statlander, she had 14 successful title defenses. Julia Hart, half of that with 7. Willow Nightingale, now in her second reign, a total of only 2 successful title defenses. Her first reign, 35 days. Second reign, 68 and counting. So, with all that being said, with all of that history that we've gone over so far, I would have to pose the question, who had the best reign, right? That's a tough question. And it's definitely an opinion-based question. My pick, that would be tough. Statlander, I like the way she did it with the open challenges. Mercedes, can't be denied. Not only was she traveling the world with those titles, but she held multiple titles from around the world as well. So showing that the TBS title basically outranked all of them and came before all of them, while at the same time being a champion in multiple companies across multiple continents. Then I would ask, who was the most dominant champion? If we go by the numbers, the top 2 would have to be Jade Cargill and also Mercedes Moné. So who would your answer be? Out of those 2, I'm picking Mercedes. But as I mentioned myself, Jade Cargill's era was defined by dominance. And then lastly, who's going to define this next era of the TBS Championship? Is this going to be the opportunity for Willow Nightingale to totally put her stamp on it? And who knows how far she can take it, right? So all interesting questions. I'm looking forward to seeing all of your opinions. So please make sure to comment. I will be happy to read them all and reply. I definitely look forward to that. A lot to talk about, and I really enjoyed doing this and going through the history of it. I hope you all did too as well. I may do some more videos like this, just going over some historical AEW moments and title reigns as well in the future. But thank you again. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And for all of you who have already subscribed, thank you. Please also remember to like, share, put those comments in. And thank you again for watching. You all have a great rest of your day, and I will be talking to you soon. Take care.